living from your real self, not performance. Ask yourself honestly, are you performing what feels safe? Or are you living what feels real? Reflection without action is avoidance. Clarity without change is just another cage. So start small. Hold your boundaries firmly. Let your silence speak volumes. Let the phone ring without guilt or explanation. That's when healing stops being just a concept and becomes a real choice. The power of sacred isolation. Being alone can feel scary, especially if you've always tied your worth to relationships, roles, or how much space you take up in others' lives. We're taught that solitude means something's wrong, that if we're not surrounded, included, or constantly connected, we've failed somehow. But what if that's not true? What if solitude isn't punishment at all, but the beginning of something important? There comes a time when you feel worn out by your own performance. You catch yourself saying yes when you want to say no. You show up to things that don't feed your soul. You smile and nod, even when it costs your peace. Maybe you've done this so long, you forgot what it feels like to be yourself when no one's watching. That's where sacred isolation comes in. Not isolation as cutting people off or building walls, but intentional space to pull back from the noise and hear yourself again. At first, the quiet feels heavy, unfamiliar, even lonely. But stay with it, because underneath the discomfort is something rare. Your real self. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to fit in and survive. But if you wear that mask too long, you forget what's underneath. Sacred isolation is the pause when you stop performing, stop being who everyone else needs you to be, and start remembering who you are when no one asks anything from you. You begin to enjoy your own company. You choose rest over obligation. You say no without guilt. You sit in silence and realize you're not lonely. You're peaceful. From that space, something powerful happens. You start rebuilding your life around your own truth, not other people's expectations. You stop needing constant validation. You stop chasing closeness that leaves you empty. You start choosing what feels honest, even if it's quiet or small. Sacred isolation doesn't disconnect you. It makes you whole. Letting go is not loss. It's liberation. Letting go can feel like grief. It's natural to feel that way because you're saying goodbye to something familiar, maybe even something beautiful. But sometimes, letting go isn't about losing. It's about releasing. It's not a final goodbye to what was good. It's a quiet escape from what was slowly breaking you. When you pull away from someone, your first instinct might be guilt. You wonder, am I being unfair? Too sensitive? Too cold? But take a closer look. Ask yourself honestly, are you grieving the person? Or are you finally detoxing from the chaos they brought into your life? Not every connection is nourishing. Some drain you. Some confuse you. Some feel addictive, like a storm you can't escape. You might feel responsible for their emotions. You might try to manage their moods like walking a tightrope. You leave conversations feeling more confused than clear. It's easy to mistake that intensity for depth. But emotional chaos is not closeness. It's instability disguised as intimacy. Walking away from that chaos doesn't make you cold or heartless. It makes you clear. Clear about what you deserve and what you won't accept. You may not notice the weight lift right away. But one day, when you've created some space between you and the person who pulled you into their storm, you'll feel it. Peace. Not loud or dramatic peace, but quiet, steady peace. You'll stop overthinking. You'll stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You'll stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. That's when the truth lands. What you feared losing was actually what had been holding you back. Making the unconscious conscious. Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Emotional chaos, when left unchecked, becomes a pattern that feels normal. But once you step away and give yourself space, you begin to see what it really was. A cycle, not a connection. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging to what hurts you. It's not about building walls. It's about building boundaries. Strong, clear boundaries that protect your energy, your clarity, and your growth. And yes, at first it might feel like something precious is ending. But what's really ending is the part of you that believed you had to stay in pain to stay connected. What comes next is strength. When you stop needing people who confuse your nervous system, you start trusting yourself again. Your inner world becomes quieter. Your mind steadies. Your heart feels lighter. Sometimes what feels like loss is actually clarity taking up the space where chaos once lived. Let that clarity fill you. Something shifts when you stop giving your energy to what depletes you. A quiet power returns. Not loud or dramatic, but undeniable. It shows in how you walk, how you speak, and how you hold space for yourself without asking permission. This is the rebirth of the self. Not the self you built to survive. Not the self you performed to be accepted. But the self that was waiting beneath it all. Intact, honest, and unbothered by the noise. The art of subtraction. Finding your true self. You don't find your true self by adding more. You find it by subtracting, by pulling your energy back from what drains you, by withdrawing your attention from false roles, by letting dead things die. Rebirth starts when you stop settling. Not just in your relationships or career, but in how you speak to yourself. In how you tolerate disrespect. In how you excuse the things that hurt you because you've gotten used to the sting. You begin to see how much of your life has been shaped by fear in disguise. Fear of being too much. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being left behind. And once you stop feeding that fear, something new begins to grow. A self that doesn't chase or perform or explain. Carl Jung called this process individuation. It's the unfolding of your truest form. Not based on who the world told you to be, but on who you are when all the noise falls away. Boundaries are birth canals for a new identity. This reborn self doesn't need validation to act. It doesn't shrink in rooms that can't hold its truth. It knows solitude isn't punishment. It's preparation. And boundaries aren't barriers. They are birth canals for a new identity. Yes, there will be grief. Grief for who you had to be. Grief for the roles you played. Grief for the years you spent making yourself smaller to keep the peace. But once the release is complete, what rises is sacred. A version of you rooted in wholeness, not approval. You start creating instead of coping, attracting instead of begging, becoming instead of explaining. And the people who resonate with this frequency, they find you because you stopped hiding your signal. The quiet power of saying, I don't want this anymore. Rebirth doesn't always feel like a breakthrough. Sometimes it feels like stillness, like shedding, like finally saying, I don't want this anymore, and trusting that something better will fill the space. And it will, because when you stop giving your energy to the wrong places, you don't just reclaim your power, you redirect it into healing, into clarity, into a life that actually fits. This is the self you were always meant to meet. Not a better version. Just the real one. And now that you've stopped settling, you're finally ready to live as them. Choosing yourself. The ultimate act of courage. When you choose yourself, it's not selfish. It's survival. Choosing yourself means saying no to what drains you, even if it disappoints others. It means putting your peace before their approval. It means trusting that your worth isn't dependent on their acceptance. This choice takes courage because it often means standing alone. But standing alone is not loneliness. It's strength. You learn to enjoy your own company. You realize that your voice matters, even if some refuse to hear it. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that don't welcome your full self. Choosing yourself is the first step toward freedom. Because freedom begins when you no longer borrow your worth from someone else's opinion. The power of silence. When saying less speaks more. Silence is a powerful tool. It's not about hiding. It's about protecting what's sacred inside you. Sometimes, the best response is no response. When you stop explaining, defending, or performing, you reclaim your energy. You let your presence carry your truth. Silence becomes a filter, a boundary that keeps out noise and confusion. Those who truly want to understand will wait patiently. Those who don't respect your silence reveal their true colors. Learning when to speak and when to hold your peace is a sign of emotional maturity. It's not about shutting down. It's about showing up with clarity and confidence. Breaking free from people-pleasing. People-pleasing feels safe because it's familiar. But safety built on pleasing others is actually a cage. It limits your freedom. It blurs your boundaries. It steals your joy. Breaking free from people-pleasing is hard because you're rewiring years of habits. You might feel guilty at first. You might fear rejection. But every time you say no, you build strength. Every boundary you hold becomes a statement. I matter. You don't need to explain your no. You don't owe anyone an apology for protecting your peace. Breaking free is about reclaiming your voice. It's about living authentically, unapologetically, and with heart. Discipline, the bridge to your future self. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about love. Love for your future self. It's the bridge between who you were and who you want to become. At first, discipline feels uncomfortable because it challenges old patterns. Your nervous system resists change. But every time you choose presence over performance, action over avoidance, you rewrite your story. Discipline helps you embody your truth. It turns awareness into action. Without discipline, insight stays theoretical. With discipline, insight becomes transformation. Practice daily. Practice saying no without guilt. Practice silence when words don't serve. This is how you build a life that reflects your true self. The journey is not linear. Be patient with yourself. Transformation isn't a straight line. You will stumble. You will doubt. You will face setbacks. And that's okay. Be patient with yourself. Growth takes time. Sometimes you need to pause. Sometimes you need to rest. Sometimes you need to return to what feels safe before you can move forward again. Self-compassion is part of the journey. Remember, every step, no matter how small, is progress. Keep choosing yourself. Keep protecting your energy. Keep moving toward the life you deserve. When saying no feels like the hardest thing, imagine you're at a gathering, surrounded by familiar faces, everyone chatting and laughing. Someone asks you to do something you really don't want to. Maybe it's an extra favor, or joining an event that drains your energy. Your heart says no, but your mouth is stuck on yes. Why? Because you've been trained to please. That moment when you finally say no, the room feels different. Maybe a few eyebrows raise, or someone sighs. You feel a pang of guilt creeping in. But deep down, you also feel a flicker of freedom, that tiny spark that says, I'm choosing me. Saying no isn't just a word. It's a declaration. It's saying, my peace matters. It's the quiet rebellion against a lifetime of putting others first. Every no builds your strength like bricks in a wall, protecting your soul. And yes, the first few no's might feel shaky, like walking on thin ice. But the more you practice, the steadier you become. You'll start noticing something beautiful. People will respect your boundaries more when you honor them yourself. The weight of over-explaining when your energy is drained. Have you ever left a conversation feeling completely drained, even though you talked a lot? That's the toll of over-explaining. You want to be understood, so you keep giving more. More words, more details, more justifications. But sometimes, the person across isn't really listening. They're filtering everything through their own judgments, assumptions, or needs. It's like shouting into a storm where your voice gets lost. The next day, your mind replays the conversation. Did I say it right? Did they get it? Should I have said more? This mental and emotional exhaustion is costly. The energy you spend over-explaining could be better saved for yourself. The key is to recognize when you're giving away your energy to people who don't deserve it. Hold your truth quietly. Let your actions show your boundaries. And when someone truly wants to understand, your words will find their way. Sacred isolation, finding yourself in the quiet. There was a time when being alone felt like the worst punishment for you. Maybe you grew up believing that being surrounded by people meant you mattered. But what if solitude is the most profound gift? Imagine stepping back from the noise, the endless messages, the social expectations, the need to perform. At first, the silence is heavy, almost suffocating. Your mind races. You feel restless. But as you sit with the quiet, something magical happens. You start to hear the whispers of your own heart. You remember who you are beneath all the roles and masks. You find pieces of yourself you forgot existed. This sacred isolation is like a deep breath for your soul. It's not about cutting people off. It's about reconnecting with your core. From this space, you rebuild with honesty and peace. You learn to enjoy your own company. You realize solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. Letting go when release feels like grief. Letting go is never easy. Whether it's a person, a habit, or a story you've told yourself for years, releasing it feels like grief. You might find yourself crying for what was. For the memories, the hopes, the comfort of the familiar. But here's the truth. Sometimes letting go isn't losing something precious. Sometimes it's escaping what was quietly breaking you. When you create space by releasing what drains you, something unexpected fills it. Peace, clarity. A new sense of strength you didn't know was inside you. You begin to trust yourself again. You stop carrying the weight that was never yours to bear. And that's when real healing begins. Rebirth, meeting your true self. After the storm of change, there comes a calm. Not an empty calm, but a full one. You start to see yourself without the masks, without the noise. This is rebirth. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you really are. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey to the self beneath all the layers. Your true self doesn't need to perform. It doesn't need validation. It simply is. And from this place of wholeness, you create a life that fits you perfectly. You speak your truth without fear. You hold your boundaries without apology. You move with quiet power that can't be shaken. This is the gift of choosing yourself. The price of sharing your true self. Every time you speak about your needs, your boundaries, or your personal journey, you're doing more than just sharing information. You're offering a piece of yourself. And that comes with a cost. Your emotional energy drains, your mental clarity fades, and you open yourself up to vulnerability. So, the big question is, are you investing your voice where it truly matters? Or are you spending it on people who don't really hear you? People who waste your energy without giving anything meaningful back. Carl Jung warned us about the danger of sharing parts of ourselves with people who only see us through their own projections. This means they aren't listening to you. Instead, they're hearing you through the lens of their own stories, assumptions, and expectations. When someone's mind is already made up about who you are, No matter how clearly you speak, your words can't reach them. That's why explaining yourself to people who constantly twist your meaning isn't real communication. It's damage control. You don't owe anyone a step-by-step explanation of your decisions. You don't have to justify your boundaries or defend your peace to people who benefit from your confusion. You get to be selective with your truth. This is about protecting your energy. It's about knowing when to speak and when to hold your clarity in silence. Not every conversation is safe. Not every listener is capable of truly understanding. And not every moment is meant for disclosure. This is what emotional maturity looks like. Knowing when your truth is being asked for out of love, and when it's being pulled out of you as the hidden toll of over-explaining. If you're honest with yourself, you'll start to notice patterns. How often do you over-explain just to keep the peace? How quickly do you soften your boundaries just to be heard, to avoid conflict, or to avoid feeling alone? And how drained do you feel after sharing with people who never really see you, who hear only what they want to hear, who judge or dismiss instead of support? The shift begins here. Speak less where you're not respected. Speak deeply where you are. Let your silence become a filter, a powerful shield that protects your energy from unnecessary wear and tear. Let your presence carry what doesn't need to be said. Trust that those who truly receive you won't need you to perform or explain in order to understand your truth. When you stop giving away your voice to those who never earned it, you don't become colder or harder. You become wiser. You begin to speak like someone who knows their words matter, someone who honors their own boundaries and worth. Awareness is not enough. Action is key. Knowing your boundaries isn't the same as holding them. Understanding your emotional patterns isn't the same as changing them. Awareness is essential, but without action, it can become just another way to stall your growth. You can study yourself endlessly. You can read books, watch videos, journal for hours, and still avoid making different choices. It's easy to stay stuck in your head, to analyze your feelings over and over while your behavior stays the same. You might tell yourself you're working on it, but deep down, you know nothing changes until your actions do. Carl Jung wrote that true transformation begins when awareness meets responsibility, when insight stops being theoretical and starts shaping how you live. It's not enough to know that people-pleasing comes from fear. You have to feel the fear and still say no. It's not enough to say your peace matters. You have to let the phone ring without answering. You have to stop explaining your decisions to people who never listen. Discipline is the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. At first, choosing your peace over pleasing others will feel uncomfortable, maybe even wrong, because your nervous system is still wired for old patterns. But every time you pause, choose presence over performance and silence over apology, you're rewiring more than just your behavior. You're reclaiming your self-respect. This isn't about perfection. It's about practice. Your truth doesn't need more discussion. It needs more embodiment.